Welcome back, everybody. I'm really excited for this deep dive today because, it's something I think every entrepreneur has to deal with.
Oh, yeah. Fear and doubt.
Absolutely. Those are big ones.
Yeah, and how those feelings can sometimes, really make it hard to move forward in business.
Totally.
So to really get into this, we're going to be looking at this great interview with Olena Pedai on the Ukrainian podcast BizData.
Okay.
Have you heard of this one?
I have. Yeah, it's a really interesting show.
Yeah, so they had Olena on, and she's not, just any entrepreneur.
Right.
She's got businesses in Ukraine and in Europe.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's led her companies through some really tough times, like, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
And then the 2022 conflict in Ukraine.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, so talk about trial by fire, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm already feeling inspired just hearing that.
Yeah.
So what was it about this interview that really stood out to you? Well, one of the things that really struck me was her belief that, like, all those unprocessed mistakes, the ones we don't really learn from,
Oh, yeah.
they can really build up, they kind of snowball and can lead to, like, a fear of doing anything new.
Oh, yeah. It's like you're afraid to make a move because,
Exactly.
you're carrying around all this baggage from the past.
Yeah, you're afraid of making the same mistakes again.
Right. Exactly.
And, she doesn't just talk about this theoretically either.
Oh, interesting.
She actually shares this really personal story about how she was trying to save her business during a crisis. And it almost, like, backfired.
Wait, how does trying to save your business backfire?
Well, in her case, she was so focused on protecting her team,
Yeah.
keeping everyone employed,
Okay.
that she basically pushed the company into, like, a cash flow crunch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like that classic, you have to balance different priorities.
Exactly.
You want to do right by your people.
Right.
But you also, have to make these tough decisions that might not be popular,
Yeah.
but are necessary for the business to survive long term.
Right. And sometimes those are the hardest decisions to make.
Absolutely. So it seems like, fear, especially when it's because of something that happened in the past, can lead us, down the wrong path,
Yeah, that's a good point.
even if we have the best intentions.
Right.
So how does Olena suggest we navigate these tricky situations? Does she see failure as, like, a bad thing?
That's interesting because she doesn't necessarily see it that way.
Okay.
She thinks failures are, like, part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But she makes this distinction between just, failing every now and then and what she calls negative momentum.
Okay, what is negative momentum?
So it's not just like individual setbacks.
Yeah.
It's more like noticing when those setbacks keep happening.
Okay.
So are you hitting the same roadblocks over and over again?
Right.
Are you making the same mistakes?
Got it.
So it's about taking a step back and looking for those patterns.
Okay, so trying to figure out why
It's exactly.
we're failing repeatedly.
Yeah. And that's where being really self-aware comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And she also makes this really interesting distinction between fear and doubt.
Oh, okay. So this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, because most people think they're the same thing.
Right. I mean, I kind of do.
Yeah, but she says they're not quite the same.
Okay.
So fear, she says, is often tied to, like, a specific experience.
Okay.
Like, our brain is like, hey, remember that time this happened?
Uh-huh.
Be careful.
Right. So it's a learned response to something bad that's already happened.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But doubt, that's more about, like, a lack of belief,
Okay.
either in yourself or in, like, the direction you're headed.
Okay.
It's like that voice saying, are you sure about this? What if it doesn't work?
Okay, so fear is based on the past, and doubt is more about a lack of confidence now or in the future.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see how both of those can really hold you back.
Right. They can both be paralyzing.
So what does she say we should do about it?
Well, when it comes to fear, she's all about taking small steps.
Okay.
Don't try to change everything at once. Just test the waters first.
So baby steps.
Right, exactly.
Dip your toe in before you jump in the pool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Build your confidence gradually
I like it. Yeah.
and, get feedback along the way.
Right.
So you can validate your assumptions before you go all in.
It's so much less scary than, going all in right away.
Right. It's a much less intimidating approach.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of the lean startup method.
Yeah.
Start small,
Okay.
learn as you go,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. But what about doubt?
Well,
How do we deal with that inner voice that says,
right.
you're not good enough or this will never work?
Yeah. So she has this interesting way of dealing with doubt.
Okay.
She calls it thinking against someone.
Thinking against someone, what is that?
So basically, it's about finding people you trust,
Okay.
but not just for validation. It's about finding people who will challenge your assumptions
Oh, interesting.
and poke holes in your ideas.
So not just yes men,
Exactly.
people who are willing to disagree.
Yeah, people who will push back
Okay.
and play devil's advocate
Interesting.
and help you refine your thinking.
I like that. Yeah, because it's so easy to get stuck in your own head.
Right, especially when you're doubting yourself.
Yeah.
So having that outside perspective can be really valuable.
It's almost like having your own personal board of advisors.
Exactly, like a personal board of advisors.
I like it. Yeah, people who can see things that you can't see.
Right.
So do you have a thinking partner or a network that you go to when you're feeling doubtful?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's so important to have those trusted advisors.
Yeah. And, speaking of outside expertise,
Yeah.
Olena also talks about, bringing in consultants, especially when you're making strategic decisions.
Right.
People who aren't emotionally invested in the outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She really emphasizes the value of that emotional detachment that consultants can bring.
Right. Because it's hard to be objective
Exactly.
when you're so close to the problem.
Right. It's like trying to read a book that you wrote.
Right.
You need someone else to catch the things you're missing.
Exactly. So when do you think it makes sense to bring in a consultant?
That's a great question. I think it comes down to a few things.
Okay.
Like when you're facing a problem that's really complex,
Okay.
or you need some specialized knowledge, or if you're having trouble making a decision because you're too emotionally involved,
Oh, way.
or even just when you need a fresh perspective to shake things up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid to bring in a consultant because,
Right.
it can be expensive,
Yeah, it can be.
but sometimes it's worth it.
Exactly. If the stakes are high enough.
Yeah. Okay, now this is where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
Olena talks about how important it is to adapt to change,
Yeah.
especially with technology moving so fast.
Right. And, her perspective is really interesting because
yeah.
she actually worked with AI like back in the 1980s.
Wow, way before it was cool.
Right. Like long before the current AI boom.
That's amazing. I bet that experience really shaped how she thinks about business and innovation.
Oh, definitely. It must have given her this deep understanding of how technology can change entire industries.
Right, and how important it is to always be learning and growing.
Exactly, to have that growth mindset.
Ah,
Because what's cutting edge today might be obsolete tomorrow.
that's a great lesson for any entrepreneur.
Yeah, it is.
So how do we make sure we're not left behind as technology keeps advancing?
Well, it starts with curiosity,
Okay.
being open to new ideas and willing to explore new things.
Okay, so always be learning new things.
Right. Always be learning.
Cool. And, it's kind of like what we're doing with this deep dive,
Yeah.
right? Exploring new ideas and perspectives.
Right. We're learning from Olena's experience.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it's also about being willing to experiment, and maybe even fail sometimes.
Yeah, fail fast,
Yeah.
learn faster.
Exactly. Yeah, and, another thing that Olena really emphasizes is personal branding,
Yeah, that's a big one these days.
especially online, right?
Exactly.
And she doesn't just talk about it. She actually dedicates 2 hours every day to building her brand.
Wow, 2 hours a day. That's serious commitment.
Yeah, it really shows how important she thinks it is.
Yeah. But it makes sense, in a world where everyone's competing for attention,
Yeah.
you have to find a way to stand out.
All right. It's about showcasing what makes you unique.
Exactly.
Your story, your expertise, your values.
It's not just about promoting yourself, though.
Right.
It's about connecting with people and building relationships.
Yeah, so it's not just about shouting your message from the rooftops.
Right.
It's about engaging authentically with your audience.
Yeah, authenticity is key.
People can tell when you're not being genuine.
Exactly. You have to be yourself.
Okay, so what are some things people can do to build a stronger personal brand?
Well, she had some really great advice.
Okay.
It all starts with figuring out what makes you unique.
Okay.
What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
What problems do you solve better than anyone else?
So figuring out your superpowers.
Right, exactly. And then you have to figure out who you're trying to reach.
Okay, your target audience.
Yeah, what are their needs and what are their pain points?
It's about speaking directly to the people who need what you offer.
Exactly. And once you know those two things,
Yeah.
your unique value proposition and your target audience,
Okay.
then you can start crafting a consistent message
Okay.
that aligns with your values
Mhm.
and resonates with your ideal clients.
Got it. So everything you do should reflect who you are and what you stand for.
Right. And finally, it's about being authentic and engaging with your audience.
Okay.
It's not about broadcasting. It's about building relationships.
Yeah. People can tell when you're just trying to sell them something.
Exactly. It's about connecting with people on a human level.
Okay. I like it. Now, Olena also talks about the marketing skills of Ukrainian marketers.
Yeah.
especially how they've been able to adapt and thrive in difficult circumstances.
Yeah, she's really proud of the talent and resilience of Ukrainian marketers.
Yeah, and she has a good point.
Right.
They've had to overcome so much.
Yeah, they've had to adapt and innovate in really challenging situations.
So what can we learn from them?
I think it's a great reminder that adversity can actually be a source of strength.
Okay.
When you're forced to face challenges, you often discover hidden talents and abilities.
Right. It forces you to be creative and resourceful.
Exactly.
So it's about embracing those challenges and finding opportunities to grow.
Absolutely.
And Olena also talked about the importance of understanding cultural differences in marketing.
Right. She talked about the differences between European, American, and Asian markets.
Right.
And how important it is to tailor your message to each specific audience.
Yeah. What works in one country might not work in another.
Exactly.
So it's about moving beyond stereotypes and assumptions
Right.
and being willing to learn about different cultures.
Yeah. And adapt your approach accordingly.
So ultimately, it all comes back to this idea that to succeed in business, you have to keep going.
Yeah.
Take small steps, but every day.
Yeah. That's such a powerful message.
Right. It's about persistence and consistency.
Yeah. And it's about being willing to adapt and change as you go.
Olena's journey is a great example of that.
It really is.
But how do we as entrepreneurs actually put these principles into practice in our own businesses?
That's a great question, and one that we'll dive into as we continue exploring Olena's insights.
Okay, I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah, let's keep going.
It feels like we're really getting somewhere now. We've talked about the problems like fear and doubt and all these rapid changes.
Yeah, for sure.
But what about the solutions? How do we actually use this information?
Right. How do we turn these insights into something actionable?
Exactly.
And I think Olena has some really practical advice for that.
Okay, I'm all ears. So where do we start?
Well, she keeps coming back to this idea of small steps,
Yeah.
especially when we're dealing with fear.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
break those big, scary goals down into smaller actions.
Yeah, it's so easy to get overwhelmed
Totally.
when you're looking at the big picture, right?
Exactly. And when you break it down into bite-sized pieces,
Oh.
it feels much more manageable.
So it's about changing our thinking from I need to conquer the world
Right.
to what's one tiny thing I can do today to make some progress.
Exactly. Yeah. Just one small step.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So what would some of those small steps look like?
Well, let's say you're someone who's been wanting to start a business, but you're terrified of failing.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people are in that boat.
Right. So a small step could be something as simple as like registering a domain name
Okay.
or setting up a basic website.
Or like doing some market research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to test the waters and see if there's even a demand for your idea.
Right. Get some validation before you invest a ton of time and money.
Exactly. And it's much less risky that way.
I like that. So instead of jumping in head first, you're kind of dipping your toes in.
Right. You're gathering information,
Yeah.
building confidence slowly.
Much less intimidating.
Exactly. And remember what we were talking about before with thinking against someone.
Oh, yeah. Finding those people who will give you honest feedback.
Exactly. That can be a really powerful tool for overcoming self-doubt.
But how do you find those people?
Well, it starts with building a network.
Okay.
People you trust and respect.
Okay.
People who have experience in areas where you might not.
Okay. So mentors, other entrepreneurs, people who've been there and done that.
Yeah, exactly. And it could even be friends or family members.
Right. Anyone who can give you objective advice.
Exactly. And the key is to be open to feedback, even if it's not what you want to hear.
Oh, that's hard.
It is, but those critical voices can actually help you avoid making big mistakes.
It's about recognizing that you don't know everything
Right.
and that other people might have valuable insights that you haven't considered.
Exactly. It's about having that humility.
Okay, now I want to go back to what we were talking about before with Olena's experience with AI.
Okay.
I mean, working with that technology so early on
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
must have really shaped how she thinks about innovation.
Oh, definitely. I think it probably taught her the importance of having a growth mindset.
Okay, so being open to new ideas and always learning new things.
Exactly, because the world is changing so fast.
Right, new technologies are popping up all the time.
Exactly. So how do we keep up? How do we make sure we're not left behind?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I'm constantly playing catch up.
Well, I think it comes down to continuous learning.
Okay.
Always be curious. Always be seeking out new information.
Okay, so read books, listen to podcasts, go to conferences.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
And it's not just about keeping up with the latest trends.
Yep.
It's about understanding the underlying principles.
Okay, so not just knowing how to use the latest tool,
Right.
but understanding why it works the way it does.
Exactly. It's about developing a deeper understanding of how technology is evolving.
So it's more about being tech savvy than just tech aware.
Yeah, I like that, tech savvy versus tech aware.
And this all ties back to personal branding.
Right. How does it?
Well, in a world where technology is changing so fast, it's more important than ever to build a strong personal brand.
Yeah, you have to stand out.
Right, you have to show people what you bring to the table.
Right, what makes you different.
Exactly, and Olena spends 2 hours every day working on her personal brand.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
It is, but it shows how seriously she takes it.
Yeah, it's clearly a priority for her.
But for a lot of us, we're already so busy running our businesses.
Right.
How do we find time for personal branding?
Well, I think it's about integrating it into your existing workflow.
Okay, so not treating it as a separate thing.
Right, make it part of what you're already doing.
So, for example?
Well, if you're already creating content for your business.
Yeah, like blog posts or videos?
Exactly. Think about how you can repurpose that content to build your personal brand.
Okay, so maybe share it on your personal social media account?
Yeah, exactly. Or turn a blog post into a LinkedIn article.
Okay, so it's about maximizing the impact of what you're already doing.
Right. And another way to integrate personal branding is to participate in industry events.
Okay.
Conferences, webinars, online communities.
Okay.
That's a great way to network and meet potential clients.
So it's about being visible.
Yeah, and putting yourself out there.
And building relationships with other people in your industry.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of networking.
Yeah, it's all about who you know, right?
Right. And remember, authenticity is key.
Oh, yeah. People can smell a fake a mile away.
Exactly.
No, right.
So just be yourself.
Okay, so don't try to be someone you're not. Just let your personality shine through.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Now, I want to bring it back to something else we talked about.
Right.
The resilience of Ukrainian entrepreneurs.
Right, they've been through so much.
They have. And yet they're still finding ways to succeed.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. And I think it's a powerful lesson for all of us. That adversity can actually make you stronger.
Okay, so what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, exactly. When you're forced to face challenges, you often discover new strengths.
Right, you have to adapt and find creative solutions.
Exactly. And that's a valuable skill in any business.
So it's about embracing the challenges
and
seeing them as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. And Olena also talked about the importance of understanding cultural nuances.
Oh, yeah, especially in marketing.
Right. She talked about how different markets have different expectations.
Yeah, and what works in one culture might not work in another.
Exactly. So it's important to be sensitive to those differences.
So do your research.
Yeah.
Learn about the cultures you're targeting.
And be willing to adapt your approach.
So ultimately, it all comes back to this idea that to succeed in business, you have to be adaptable.
Yeah, you have to be willing to change and evolve as the world changes.
And you have to be resilient.
Right. You have to be able to bounce back from setbacks.
You have to be a lifelong learner.
Exactly. Always be growing, always be learning.
Olena's journey is a great example of that.
It really is. She's faced so many challenges, but she's never stopped learning and growing.
So as we think about all of this, how do we actually apply these lessons to our own businesses and our own lives?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot in this deep dive, it feels like.
We have, yeah, a lot of ground covered.
Yeah, from facing fear and doubt to adapting to all these crazy changes, and even how to build a strong personal brand.
Olena had a lot to say.
She did. She really did. And it's all really inspiring. But I'm thinking now, how do we actually use all of this?
Right, like how do we take these insights and turn them into action?
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to focus on that. How can we apply these lessons to our own businesses and our own lives?
Yeah, let's get practical. How can our listeners actually use this stuff?
So let's start with one of the big themes we talked about, overcoming fear and doubt.
Okay, good place to start.
Yeah, what's like one thing our listeners can do right now today to start dealing with those feelings?
I think it goes back to what Olena said about small steps.
Right.
It's so easy to get overwhelmed when you think about the big picture.
Yeah, it can be paralyzing.
Exactly.
Right.
But if we break it down into smaller actions, it feels much less scary.
So instead of thinking I need to change the world,
right,
we ask ourselves, what's one tiny thing I can do today?
Yeah, one little thing to move forward.
I like that. So give me an example for someone who's been wanting to start a business, but they're terrified of failing.
Okay, so for them, a small step could be something as simple as, registering a domain name.
Okay.
Or setting up a very basic website.
Or like making a list of potential business ideas.
Yeah. Anything to get the ball rolling.
Okay. Or maybe even just reaching out to someone they admire for advice.
Exactly. Just take that first step, however small it is.
It's about proving to yourself that you can do it.
Right. And building momentum from there.
And that can be really powerful.
It can, yeah, that sense of accomplishment, even from a small step, can really boost your confidence.
Now, building on that idea of taking action, I'm thinking about Olena's advice on finding advisors.
Right. The thinking against someone concept.
Finding those people who can give you honest feedback and help you see things from different angles.
Exactly. And those people don't have to be, high-paid consultants.
Okay.
It could be mentors, colleagues, friends, family members, anyone you trust and who has experience that you don't.
So it's about building a network of support, people who can offer different perspectives.
Oh, right. And don't be afraid to reach out to people you admire.
Yeah, put yourself out there.
Go to events.
Yeah.
Join online communities. Just start building those connections.
And this all ties in with personal branding too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In this digital world, it's so important to build a strong personal brand.
Absolutely. It's how you stand out from the crowd.
Yeah. And Olena spends 2 hours every day working on her brand.
Yeah, she's really dedicated to it.
She is, and it clearly works for her.
It does, but, it's not just about promoting yourself.
Right.
It's about connecting with people and sharing your expertise.
Yeah, and becoming a thought leader in your space.
Exactly, someone people trust and respect.
And one of the best ways to do that is through content creation.
Yeah, content is king.
Blog posts, videos, social media posts, anything that provides value to your audience.
Right. Give people a reason to follow you.
And share your content in the right places.
Exactly. Know your audience and where they hang out online.
So if you're targeting business professionals,
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a must.
For sure. And if you're going after a younger demographic,
yeah,
maybe TikTok or Instagram.
Right. It's about being adaptable, just like Olena has been throughout her career.
Exactly. She's always learning and adapting to new challenges.
And that brings us back to the resilience of Ukrainian entrepreneurs.
Yeah, what an inspiring group of people.
They really are. They've been through so much, and yet they're still finding ways to succeed.
It's a testament to the human spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, our ability to overcome adversity and find a way forward.
Exactly. And it's a great reminder that we're all capable of more than we think we are.
So what can we learn from them?
I think the biggest takeaway is that challenges can actually make you stronger.
Okay.
When you're forced to face difficult situations, you often discover hidden strengths.
Okay, so it's about embracing the struggle.
Right. Seeing it as an opportunity for growth.
And building that resilience muscle.
Exactly. And it's also about having a strong support system.
Yeah, people you can rely on when things get tough.
Exactly. Because you don't have to go through it alone.
Olena's story really highlights that.
It does. She's built strong relationships, both personally and professionally.
And those relationships have helped her through some really tough times.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a few key takeaways.
Okay, I'm ready.
First, remember that progress isn't always about making huge leaps.
Okay.
It's about taking those small, consistent steps every day.
Right. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And second, don't be afraid to ask for help. Find mentors. Build a network. Surround yourself with people who will support you.
Because we're stronger together.
We are. And finally, never stop learning.
Okay.
The world is changing so fast. So be curious. Seek out new knowledge and be willing to adapt.
Olena is a great role model for that.
She is. She's always learning and growing.
So to all our listeners out there, keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking those small steps.
Yeah, you've got this.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
We did too. It was a great conversation.
We'll be back soon with another episode exploring the minds of fascinating entrepreneurs.
Yeah, we've got some great guests lined up.
Until then, keep pushing forward. And remember, even small steps can lead to extraordinary results.
Absolutely, you can do it.